Thank you all for coming. We're going to get started in just a second. We're waiting for a few more people to come in the room, including Frank from the township. We'll get started in just about 30 seconds or so. I think we're ready to start. If you are wherever you need to be comfortable, we'll get going here today. Where does it get plugged in? Okay, thank you. First of all, I apologize for the weather today. I know it's already in many cases hard to get around places in northwestern Indiana. The cold weather does not make that any more fun. So appreciate you being here and making the effort. It also says a lot about your commitment to public transportation that you made the effort to get in this room, which we greatly appreciate. And we're looking forward to a great discussion and hopefully to improve transit in northwestern Indiana. I don't think I said it before, but I am Ty Warner. I am Executive Director of the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, or NIRPC, N-I-R-P-C. And let me just talk about what we're doing today, and I'm going to very quickly get it to Frank Vervan Jr., who's the Township Trustee, who owns this facility. So this whole meeting today came out of settlement talks that we had with the group Everybody Counts in regards to a legal action. NIRPC agreed to have this meeting, and we thought that it would be a good idea to be able to hopefully get some productive discussion on transportation issues in northwestern Indiana, as well as hopefully an educational time as well about how transit gets funded, how it works, how things, the challenges that transit has in northwestern Indiana. So we're looking forward for a good discussion. I'm going to turn it over to Frank, and then Frank will turn it back to me. And I'm going to give you a brief background on NIRPC, on the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, what it is, what it does. And then I will turn it to Belinda Petrosky, also of NIRPC staff, who will talk about transit in more detail, in how it's funded, what it covers, how it works here. And then after that, I believe there's going to be another statement that's made from Everybody Counts. And then Steve Walsh from Lakeshore Public Media will take it from there for the rest of the meeting and will help conduct the discussion. So that's the format for the day. Something else I want to be sure to say is that there is a book reporter here that is taking a transcript of this meeting, and there is also a videographer who is videotaping the meeting. Both the video and the transcript will be available on the NIRPC website as soon as we have them available to post, and that will be there. There will be a PowerPoint that Belinda will be using. She'll be talking about everything on the slides that she's using. That PowerPoint will also be on our website. If it's not already posted, it will be there very shortly. So with that, let me turn it over to Frank Vervan, wherever Frank went. Thank you, Frank, for this facility, and thank you for hosting us today.
Thank you. Something I do is I speak here all the time, and I'd really like to speak without the microphone if I could. Can everyone hear me? Okay, all right. So first I want to welcome you to Wicker Park, of which I don't own. The taxpayers own it, and it's the North Township Trustee's office that runs it. And I want to make that perfectly clear for when we start. So my welcoming remarks is, I'd like to give just a state of the state of Dial-A-Ride. So North Township Trustee's Office offers Dial-A-Ride, which is one of the last transportation systems standing in Lake County. And it's an on-demand service. And so I'm going to walk you through what we do. So in 2012, we gave 12,000 rides. the RBA went under, and first I want to say, I'm not a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to transportation. So when we met in Hammond at the Civic Center, I was there and I talked about the options that we had for funding in order for transportation to continue. So I've learned a lot about transportation as quickly as I possibly can. So what I want to say is now in 2014, after we received the CMAQ grant from the federal government, which is a carbon monoxide reduction grant, our ridership has gone to almost 48,000 rides at the end of this year. So we tripled or quadrupled the amount of rides that we've been able to provide. And how we've done that, how we've been able to do that, is we partnered with AAA to handle our overflow. We purchased a couple more buses that we're waiting for, but we've tried to make ourselves more efficient to get more buses on the road. We privatized our dispatch so that we could handle the call volume, because we had a 1960s way of answering the phone, and at the township we also have other services that we provide, so it was almost too much to handle. So we privatized that with Prompt to be able to handle the call volume. The bottom line is there's a need. That's what that statistic from 12,000 to 48,000, I'm trying to impress upon you, is that there's a need for public transportation. And how we've handled it is every person who calls, we try and provide a ride for. How difficult that may be, and how soon we may run out of the money, what we're trying to do is fill the need. And that's what the CMAQ grant is designed to do. You take a transportation system, you utilize it, and you prove to the local economy and to the local government that there's a need, and you can do it efficiently and effectively. The other aspect of what we're trying to do with Dial a Ride is bundle more riders on the buses so we could bring down the cost per ride to be able to extend the amount of rides that we can give over the next year. And we also are looking at the option of having to charge a fee, $1 or $2, to be able to, when we go for funding, be able to say there is skin in the game, we charge $2. All of that is what we're doing now. So what we have to ask ourselves is, where do we see public transportation in 5 years? And I understand the gist of this meeting and what it's about, and I'm going to get to that point. But what we have to do is, going forward, is have to figure out and have a plan what we're going to do for public transportation. GPTC in the city of Gary is one of the last fixed routes left in Lake County. North Township, South Lake, and EEOC out of Portage and out of South County are the last transportation system standing. We have to be able to figure out a system that is a hybrid, that one, there's a political will for people to implement, two, that we could absolutely positively find an efficient and economic way to pay for it, and be able to find a funding source so that people are able to get rides. What we have proven at North Township is that there's a need, and that's what the CMAQ grant has done. So now what we have to do is provide a product that shows elected officials and the public that there is efficacy and that we are efficient in what we are doing. And we have to be able to do that by showing them and not telling them. And that's what we're trying to do. We've brought in private companies. We try to maximize every penny that we've had. We're charging a fee. We're trying to lower per-cost rides. And that's what we're doing on a daily basis. So the point of this meeting today is, not only, in very simple terms, it's equal access and equal opportunity. What the world needs to know is that transportation, buses, provide equal access and equal opportunity for people. It's a very simple formula. It is also a bridge of economic development. So if businesses are growing in South County, that's how workers from ID Tech, from East Chicago, Hammond, and Whiting get to those jobs. If they can't afford a car and they're just starting off, the sustainability of those jobs is public transportation. So we have a tremendous opportunity that we have to capitalize on, because we have to be able to say, where are we going in 5 years? And it's our responsibility as far as the leaders. The North Township Trustee's Office, GPTC, NIRPC, Everybody counts. We have to be able to work together to find a product that people want to invest in so that we can provide transportation for each other. A very long story short, I was in the city of Gary. Ms. Torres was talking and giving a speech. The one thing that I walked away from is, had a friend who I knew who liked Raymond Fletcher, moved to Las Vegas. But we would correspond quite frequently. He was a paraplegic in a wheelchair. And all he ever wanted was an equal opportunity. And he moved to Las Vegas for a lot of different reasons, but one of them was because of public transportation. And to have the ability to be mobile. So that's why we're here today. There's got to be an understanding from all sides. The providers have to be able to provide a product that people trust, is efficient effectively, and dependable. And the riders have to understand that we're doing everything we can, and everybody counts, has to take into account the parameters in which we have to work in, and doing the best that we can. I believe in my heart and soul that everyone wants to find that common ground. Now, there are a lot of barriers to overcome, but the fact of the matter is I get that you want equal opportunity, and you want the ability to be mobile in your world. It's not a privilege, it's a right. I get that. Mr. Fletcher was in a wheelchair, and when people would see him show up at the store or the meetings, no, he didn't want accolades because he did that. That he just wanted to be normal. He wanted to live his life and be able to go to the store. He would call us for rides. This is reality. To be able to go to a political or government function and call dial-a-ride, it would be after hours, but we would find a way to get him there. We would call Chip before we had a contract and ask him to get him a ride. But the fact is, what's the difference between me having equal access to go to that meeting and Raymond Fletcher? Well, the difference is he's dependent upon public transportation. And so, the subject is bigger than this room, it's bigger than this park, and it's bigger than this county. And we have got to provide leadership to be able to provide reasonable and efficient ways to show the taxpayers how public transit should be run and break all those borders down. So I hope that today is productive. And my hope is that your situation and your issues are understood and absorbed. This isn't a meeting about empathy. It's a meeting about moving forward. And it's really about finding a common source and a commonality on how to continue or how to start the best way to provide public transportation in our county. And I'm going to get on the soapbox. Every thriving economy in America has public transportation. And it's long overdue that Lake County does not get on the road or the path of putting together a public transportation system that provides rides, bridges economic development, and uplifts people to be able to get jobs so they're self-sustaining. Long overdue. So we must find a way to do that. I thank you all very much, and I will be here all day to be able to listen to the comments. I'll be here tonight. But the main point that I also want you to walk away from is allow this meeting to be a springboard to better things. And everyone conduct themselves, and on NIRPC side of things, we have new leadership, and there's new beginnings. I believe in my heart and soul, Ty Warner wants to be able to put a product together and a plan that provides transportation. He's a new guy that deserves the benefit of the doubt that new beginnings have started, and we're moving in that direction. So I hope we work together to be able to provide that. I thank you very much, Ty Warner.
Thank you very much, Frank. That's great. Let me give you some background to NIRPC so you understand just organizationally what NIRPC is if you're not already familiar with the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. And then, as I said, I'll turn it over to Belinda to talk more specifically about transit. The Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission is the Council of Governments for Northwestern Indiana. That's first and foremost. That means that all 41 municipalities...
Oh, sir,
Yes?
Can you talk a little louder? Please?
Absolutely. So NIRPC is the Council of Governments for Northwestern Indiana. All 41 municipalities, all 3 counties belong to NIRPC. They come to the table at least once a month to talk about issues that are bigger than any one of them. That's really what it is about. It was formed initially in 1965 and has gone on from there, but is, in addition to the Council of Governments function, it also is the MPO for Northwestern Indiana. That's Metropolitan Planning Organization. And that has a certain federal role that is common across this country. Any population that's greater than 50,000 in an urbanized area has an MPO by law. And the function of that MPO, in simpler terms, is to be able to access federal funds and pull federal funds to the local level where local decision makers decide how those funds are spent. It's important to understand that the NIRPC board is made up of your elected officials, the folks that you elect to represent you at that board. Every community that sends somebody as a representative to NIRPC is elected by their community, and in many cases it's the mayors, not always, but the mayors and counties and even the county surveyors. There's 2 townships and a governor appointee. They all are making up the NIRPC board, which is composed of 53 members. So you have elected representatives on the NIRPC board that actually are NIRPC. That is what NIRPC is the composition of those officials from those respective communities. One thing about with the MPO, as I mentioned with federal funds, as I've been out talking around the area, one thing that I understand is a common misperception is that the MPO is somehow sitting on a pile of cash and just deciding how those funds get decided, and that's not the way it works. NIRPC is a governmental entity that has access to federal funds, but to be able to use those federal funds on the local level, there has to be a local match. There has to be local money generated from local sources to be able to match those federal dollars and gain access to those funds. So we help do that, but it's not as if we have some massive amount of cash that just comes to us automatically. It's a matter of accessing those funds. That said, transit falls into that picture and how transit gets funded. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Belinda, wherever Belinda went. Is she hiding behind there? To be able to describe back there. So to be able to describe how this works in a bit more detail. Use that microphone.
Thank you. Let me get out of the way here. Thank you. We're just going to take a few minutes and kind of do a Transit 101 crash course here without boring anybody. Okay. There are 2 roles NIRPC plays in public transit. One of them is what's called our MPO role, and that it stands for Metropolitan Planning Organization. That's creation of the federal government. Agencies like ours are now exist all across the country, and we are responsible for doing that list of things, a long-range transportation plan that has to include regional goals and objectives, priorities, expansion plans, and then a short-range plan, which then implements that long-range plan. And out of that comes criteria and our project programming and selection process. The next major role we play is kind of unusual for MPOs. We were asked a number of years ago by the Federal Transit Administration to take on the role as grantee on behalf of small human services agencies that were providing public transit, rather than having multiple small agencies filing applications. They asked NIRPC to do that. So we now do that on behalf of a total of 7 transit operators in Lake Porter and LaPorte counties. That calls for us to perform administrative oversight of the 7 for compliance with federal rules and regulations. We receive and pass through federal funds for the 7, and we submit an annual grant application or applications, conduct financial oversight, and do the quarterly reporting process for them. Public transit funding. Basically 3 sources. There can be more, but basically local support being the most important. Without it, we don't get the other 2. Local support comes from a variety of sources, including fares, municipal property taxes, other federal programs, county economic development income tax, and county property taxes. State support is generated from a very small portion of the sales tax dedicated to public transit, and then there is a similar commuter rail fund that only NICD is eligible for. That is also a small portion of sales tax. And then the federal support, by far and away the majority of which is done under the what they call the Section 5307 program. Types of transit. There are multiple types of transit. In Northwest Indiana, we have basically 4. A fixed route, which is established routes, stops, and fares. Complementary paratransit, and it's required of fixed route systems. Riders must qualify and register for the service. Demand response service, that may be either available to the general public, or it can be special services for elderly and disabled, and its fares and hours are set by the respective operators. And then commuter and passenger rail. The existing operators in Northwest Indiana, the direct recipients, that means these 3 operators get their funding directly from FTA. We do not do the grants on their behalf. That's the Gary Public Transportation Corporation, GPTC, Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, or NICD, that's the South Shore, and then Michigan City Transit. This list of operators is the 7 that comprise NIRPC's sub-grantees or sub-recipients. And they are East Chicago Transit, North Township Dial-A-Ride, excuse me, South County Community Services, Opportunity Enterprises, Porter County Aging and Community Services, Valparaiso Transit, and LaPorte Transport. The next couple of charts I did to show you how the fiscal year 2014 Section 5307 money was used in Lake and Porter County. They get one set of funds, and then Michigan City and LaPorte, because they're a small urban area, they have another set of funds that just they qualify for. So there's the numbers for 14, and that really is their basic maintenance of operations money called operating, preventive maintenance, and capital. In Lake County, GPTC got a little over $5 million. NICD, the South Shore, gets about $3.5 million. South Lake County Community Services, about $0.5 million. And North Township Dial-A-Ride, $181,000. The Porter County operators, excuse me, Porter County operators, Valpo at $695,000, Porter County Aging and Community Services, a little over $300,000, and Opportunity Enterprises at $215,000. We get between $10.5, $11.5 million every year in that 5307 fund. The transit operators are the ones who meet and program out that money with selecting projects based on criteria and priorities, and then that list of projects goes out to the public for review and comment. Okay, then we're showing in these pie charts how dependent each operator or the groups of operators, types of operators are on the different funding sources. The first slide is the 2012 fixed route and complementary paratransit pie chart of how the federal was 44% of their support that year, the local match was 40%, and the state was 16%. For 2013, you saw a little bit of a shift. Federal went to 52%, local 32%, and state stayed about even at 16%. For the demand response services in 2012, federal government was 21% of their operating costs, the state was 22%, and local funding subsidizes it at the rate of 57% in Porter County. In 2013 in Porter County, or the demand response operators, demand response operators, 28% was federal, state 31%, and local went down to 41%, 41. I have ridership numbers up there for 2013 and 2014, just to show how we're doing, and without reading every number, they are very stable for the most part. NICD went down about 60,000, GPTC went up almost 100,000, East Chicago went up about 13,000, and Valpo went up about 30,000, OE went up 5,000 from 20 to 13, South Lake County went down about 5,000. North Township, you see that huge increase that Frank talked about, from 10,000 all the way up to almost 33,000. And Porter County, Aging and Community Services went down slightly, from 12 to 13. In Michigan City and LaPorte, Michigan City did well, going up a little over 20,000, and LaPorte's hanging in there about 12,000 or 1,200 up. And you see that the totals overall for 12, for all the bus and demand response, were about 1,340,000. NICD, of course, is the 3.6 million, and for 13, the total bus demand response went to 1,442,000, so we're picking up there, and NICD going down just a little bit. So it's fairly stable with the availability of support now at this level. We're able to maintain at least what we're doing, what each is doing. Where is it available? Very quickly, LaPorte County, Michigan City's fixed route, and then the city of LaPorte is transport is a demand response operation. Oops. Porter County Transit, you see the fixed route in the center is Valpo, and then they have a route up to the South Shore Station. They run on the weekends. And then in the insert you can see that we have the hash marks in the color. That means that demand response is available county-wide from the two agencies, OE and Porter County. This is Lake County fixed route transit, a little hard to see, but showing where the fixed route services are for GPTC and East Chicago. And that's, of course, primarily in the north end of the county, down to Crown Point with GPTC's Broadway Express. For public demand response and paratransit, the blue, you know, in about 2/3 of the county is the service area for South Lake County. They go everywhere except Gary and North Township. And that's because of the availability of a great deal of service in Gary and North Township. If you, when you look at the complimentary paratransit area, that's where this darker area is. That's a requirement to provide that transit within 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route. So when you add all that up, there's a substantial amount of transit in that area. I thank you. This is our contact information, which I think we have available on cards or not. Our email address, nirpc@nirpc.org. Our telephone, 219-763-6060, or you can also dial us on 711. And then the U.S. Postal Service, our address, 6100 Southport Road, Portage, Indiana, 46368. We are online at www.nirpc.org, facebook.com/nirpcmpo, and twitter.com/nirpc. And I thank you.
Thank you, Belinda. Yeah, the PowerPoint, as I mentioned, will be online. If you need that in larger print, we can make that available to you and get you the PowerPoint information in larger print. There were numbers on there for the ridership that I know might have been difficult to absorb if you'd like to look at them in greater detail. I know that probably generated a lot of questions. And when Steve Walsh comes up very shortly, he'll not only recognize folks in the room, but also get right to your questions and all. But before we do that, my understanding is that everybody counts have wanted to make a statement of some sort. Is that correct? And Ms. Torres, is that you? Can I hand you the microphone?
Sure. Thank you. Okay, can't tell because when you're using it. Sure, you want me to?
Yes, please.
You do, huh? Okay, it's not my thing, but okay.
You can do it.
Okay. Yeah, we wanted to get a few things clear. There's some misinformation out there, and we think it's important too for you to know a little bit of the history about how we happen to be here today. For those who don't know, Everybody Counts is an advocacy agency. We've been funded by the federal government and serving the community for about 25 years. We're extremely proud of the positive relationships we've built within the community. We also take very great pride in anything we're involved with directly. And I know there have been some press releases out there, and some people are under the impression that we were co-sponsoring, co-hosting, co-organizing this event. And that's absolutely incorrect. There are a lot of things we would have done differently. Everyone approaches things in a different way, but the way that we would have organized the information for the audience, among other things, would have been very, very different. So, quick history. About 20 years ago, we started getting a lot of calls from local residents who were having difficulties with the transit systems, the fragmented transit systems in Lake County. We undertook efforts to get the local decision makers to recognize that those people that had the problems, those people who were directly impacted, needed to be involved in the planning process. And we also tried to convey the fact that the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, was extremely important, compliance with that act. And that lawsuit is the reason that we're here together today. It's important to note that next year the ADA will be 25 years old. And so we think it's high time, to comply with that. Now, I also wanted to acknowledge some of the individuals who are willing to put their names. When you file a class action lawsuit, there have to be individuals who are willing to put their names on the dotted line. And sometimes that can be a real scary thing. I'm sure you can understand that. Some of the individuals who were willing to do that paid a pretty high price for their bravery. And sadly, several of them have died waiting for a resolution. And they can't be here today, so I wanted their presence to be recognized. None of our efforts on behalf of citizens with disabilities would have been possible without the incredible amount of support that we have received on a pro bono, for y'all that don't know that, that's free basis, from our legal team at Jenner & Block. And we want to publicly thank our attorney, your attorney, Mr. Attorney Steve Cyrus in the back there, for his unflagging commitment to our cause. Thank you. Well, our primary goal in filing that class action lawsuit was compliance with the ADA. And sadly, up until this moment, the ADA hasn't even been mentioned. It's kind of an important component of what we're talking about today. We also hope to get the local transit providers, decision makers, funders, to recognize that the people who need public transit just might have some good ideas about the public transportation system and that they needed to be a part of the process. The good news is that Gary Public Transit Corporation, East Chicago Public Transit, and of course the North Township Trustees Dial-A-Ride Service have fully embraced that concept of working with the people and working together. For the last 2 years, they've been sitting down at the table with people who actually use public transit, treating them with respect, as equals, and they have proven that true collaboration can happen in Northwest Indiana. The bad news is that it hasn't changed very much with some other folks. I sincerely hope that Mr. Mervan's predictions bode well for the future. Everybody counts. None of us here representing Everybody Counts will apologize for being labeled as troublemakers. You might have heard that. We will continue to tell the people of Northwest Indiana that they no longer have to settle for business as usual. Now, as Frederick Douglass said many years ago, without struggle, there can be no progress. Because power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. We prefer to work collaboratively. That's the way we have always approached the topic. However, if that doesn't work, we're willing to do what it takes. Some say that things will never change, but folks, here in Northwest Indiana, it's time that they do change. And I'm going to stop. We know that you have important things to say today. We encourage you to share your thoughts, your ideas, your needs, and your dreams. Be not afraid to say when you don't understand something. Sometimes when things are put out there in terms you don't understand, it can be very intimidating. This is not the day to let that intimidate you, because you are the real stakeholders in this process. Thank you. Is anybody going to introduce you? Or? Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, Steve Walsh has graciously agreed to facilitate this conversation. I think many of you know Steve from Lakeshore Public Media, and so Steve is just here to my left. So with that, Steve, I'm going to give it over to you.
All right, thanks a lot of time. Again, yeah, I'm Steve Walsh with Lakeshore Public Radio. I'm a journalist. I also host the daily public affairs program on Lakeshore Public Radio called Regionally Speaking. I'm going to put the microphone closer so everybody can hear. Actually, I just want to put in a plug. At 4 o'clock, we're going to be recording my radio show to air tomorrow at 1 o'clock on Lakeshore Public Radio. So if you have a chance to stick around, we might be able to get you on air. Other than that, I'm going to try to keep as light a hand on this as humanly possible. There are some basic ground rules that everyone has agreed upon. Everyone should stick to about 3 minutes. But really, the whole idea is that everybody at least gets a chance to speak once during this session. There will be another session starting at 5 o'clock. Other than that, that's pretty much what we're trying to do here. So, who's the Teresa?
Steve, were you going to acknowledge the folks from the transit systems that are here in the room?
Oh yeah, let's do that.
I started to do that, but I knew.
All right, let's check. Who are the folks? David Wright's right there. Who are the folks from the different transit systems here? Sure, stand on up. I'm not sure I have everybody's name, so let's go ahead.
David Wright, Gary Public Transit.
Excuse me, can everybody speak a little louder?
Yes.
Francisco Rosado Jr. from East Chicago Transit.
Thank you.
George Neal, Gary Transit.
We've got the second row here. Taylor Wagrin, City of Valparaiso.
Bruce Lindner, Porter County Aging and Community Services.
Thank you.
Yep, behind in the back.
Chip Whitney, AAA Express.
Thank you.
Jerry Siska, North Township Dial-A-Ride.
Thank you.
Jamie Rouse, North Township Dial-A-Ride.
Thank you.
We catch everybody?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Excellent.
Claudia Taylor, Opportunity Enterprise, Valparaiso.
Margot Sabato, South Lake County.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who you were.
Margot Sabato, South Lake County Community Services.
Thank you.
Tom McLennan, Transport, City of LaPorte.
Good turnout, all the way from the fourth. Thanks for coming out. And then we have commissioners from NIRPC. I see the mayor back here. Mayor Stenico here. You're chairman of NIRPC right now, are you not?
Yes.
All right.
2 more months.
2 more months. 2 long, long months. Who else? Who else is here from NIRPC?
Joe Simonetto, Munster.
Okay.
Joe Simonetto, Munster Town Council, NIRPC board member.
Have we covered it? Got everybody in here?
Maybe, sorry, NIRPC staff, I think.
Okay.
And then from NIRPC staff, we have Angie Hayes, Belinda Petrosky, Stephen Sosterik, Alan Hammond is the possessor of the other microphone, roaming around the room. And again, I'm Ty Warner, Executive Director from NIRPC. And Kathleen Hoddle, also from NIRPC staff, who just joined us fairly recently.
All right, so what we're going to do is I know some of you have been to like public hearings where all they do is you get up and you say your piece and move on to the next person. NIRPC has agreed that if they can answer the question, if it's something that's in their purview, that they will answer questions. You might be able to get an answer to some of those questions. Again, though, you can stay roughly within that 3 minutes because we have a lot of people here. We want to get to all of them. So I guess we'll start by raising hands here.
Somebody in there.
If at any time I'm not speaking loudly enough, which I'm not typically, point it out.
Now,
Hi, my name is Patricia Hawkins, and I've been, my name is Patricia Hawkins, I'm disabled, and I've been a 22-year resident of Hammond, Indiana. And when I first moved here in 1992, they had fish rock, and about 3 years ago, they discontinued it, and the Hammond residents need fish rock back again because I have a disabled son, and he like to be independent. And he don't like to wait for nobody. He wants to go from point A to point B. And they should restore the Hammond public transit because the residents really need that to go from point A to point B. Because if they don't restore it in Hammond to go from point A to point B, I'm going to be moving from to Chicago, Illinois, where I'm from, where they run transit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays.
very good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clement Richmond, and I'm a Gary resident. And just to kind of piggyback on what the lady said here, you know, I don't know if it's true, but if it is true, I heard that Mayor McDermott said that he doesn't feel that it's necessary for Hammond residents to have, or something. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but bottom line, I heard that he was against it. I don't see him present here. So, I mean, that sends a message too, you know, and then here we are, we have the number 24 and the number 12, you know, going to Sibley and Morton, and we don't see, you know, anybody speaking up, you know, in the government side of Hammond, Indiana. And my understanding is that he doesn't even want to get involved with helping in any shape, form, or fashion. So that sends a bad message to us as Gary residents and anybody that's, you know, in the surrounding communities within Hammond. So I think she's right. I think that's completely wrong, completely out of order when you sit up here making a 6-figure salary and you're telling us, the people who are living from paycheck to paycheck and not making money hand over fist, that we actually don't need it. I can't believe that he would have the audacity to say that, and that's flat out wrong.
I think this was covered just a little bit by all of these other speakers, but the ground rules for this are twofold. One of them is, you know, how's the service right now, such as it is, you know, and what are your thoughts on that current service, and also, what do you think should be done? What should the future of public transit look like in Northwest Indiana? Certainly.
We need to stop. We need to stop with all these fractions and transit that we have and create a regional transit system. This is what we need. This is not only what Cary needs, Porter County needs. We need to go. My children, my name is Joseph Cunningham. I've been a resident of Cary, Indiana all my life. Okay, I have 2 small children. This is something that's going to affect their life. I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old. It's going to affect their life for the next 40 years on the decisions that NIRPC makes here today. We need a regional transit system service that goes to all throughout the county. So if I get up in the morning and I decide I can't reach Dial-A-Ride, I know that I can get on a bus and go anywhere I want to go without worrying about people like shit. Dial-A-Ride may be a good idea, but it's not for everybody. We need, once again, a regional service. Now, if we got that regional service, where should it be? Well, let's say, who has the most buses? Who has the most drivers? That's Gary, Indiana. Okay, that should be the hub. We should think bigger than this. We shouldn't fraction the people and make them go here and there, and maybe we can get a ride, or it's at the discretion of a person. Not your decision, but at the delight and discretion of another person to decide if you can ride in his Dial-A-Ride or ride in his transit service.
Do you use the service right now?
I use the service. I'm disabled. I have COPD, emphysema. I also have cancer. But I'm not going to go on about my ailments. I'm just going to talk about the fact of what they need here in this region. I'm not just talking about Gary. We need to be able to go anywhere we want to go, anytime we want to go. Okay? Do you understand that? Does NIRPC get it? Do you get it, NIRPC?
To a courthouse.
Now, also, NIRPC, I just want to inform you that the next time you have a meeting, inform not only your stakeholders, but all of those people who are disabled, blind, and people who are poor, people who ride the bus. We're the ones that ride the bus. Rich people don't ride the buses. They get in their cars, their $50,000 and $40,000 cars, and they drive away. We have to wait for a bus. Should we wait for a bus for an hour? But if we had mass transit throughout the county, every bus should be rolling every 15, 20 minutes up to a stop. We should have enough buses to supply everybody who wants to get on the bus anytime, day or night. The buses should be running at least till 9 o'clock. Do you realize how many people have been put out of their jobs because the buses stop at 5 o'clock in Gary? On Saturdays, where people work, or they stop at 7 o'clock, or people can't go to church on Sundays because there are no buses. There should be buses rolling every day,
How reliable?
24/7.
Which one do you use? Do you use Gary Public
I use Gary Public Transit, but because the reason I use Gary Public Transit is it doesn't hook up with other transit services around the county. There are other places I like to go and not have to pay money out of my pocket to go there. I should be able to pay, I'm a senior citizen, I'm 64 years old. I should be able to pay $1 and go anywhere I want in the county. Okay? So if you consolidate all of this money that you're giving to these small fractions and unite and give it to a region, and we go before the federal government as a region and match their dollars, I think it's, what is it? They match 80, we give up 20. We would have that 20% without any problem. And thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Okay. This is an example of some vision for the service and some comments on how it works. We're moving right there, right next to you. Okay. It's going to be really hard for you to start to tell who was next, but we're going to try to get to everybody.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Okay, my name is Tiffany Johnson. I live in Munster and I'm disabled, so if I can't drive anywhere, so to piggyback on what he said, it should be some kind of service, even if Dial-A-Ride goes to a specific place, the Gary Transit, as long as it is a place that all of the buses could to connect. At least that way people would be able to get from point A to point B, even if it's point A, point B, point C, but then at least they would be able to get to wherever it is that they need to get.
I'm sorry. No, we're just not. Wait. She wasn't very place.
Gary, I am Gary. How are you? And I've been using transportation, and I'm really happy about the buses that have been able to go to Walmart and PTO, go into the bus number 24, and in Walmart, I get to go to Walmart and Target, the hospital, and the good services I've been receiving, and it's been wonderful. I wanted to thank you for that. No. I live in Hammond. I forgot to mention that.
Hammond.
Okay.
Can I ask, does she have any thoughts on how the service might improve? Do you have any thoughts?
No one else?
No, she said, yeah, she said, it gets me where I need to go, and that, like Target and the grocery stores, and then, it brings me home, so for me, it's a good service.
She uses Dial-A-Ride, and she's very happy with the service the way it is now. It's worked well for her. Ma'am?
My name is Diane Smith. I live in Merrillville, Indiana. I'd like to give you all a little bit of a different perspective. All of us don't live in Dial-A-Ride territory. Therefore, some of us have to pay to ride the buses that we ride. And I was fortunate enough to apply for Gary Public Transportation Corporation. I initially was given a temporary ridership. So I had to go to the doctor and have everything verified in order to ride to and from wherever I stopped, $4. Well, after about 3 months, I had to have that same form filled out by a licensed physician, and I was granted a 3-year ridership availability at $4 per ride. Now, I also ride South Lake County buses, and because of funding, they have different problems that they have to deal with. Well, that's with any bus company. You got to pay for maintenance of the buses, you have to pay for the riders, you have to pay for a whole lot of things. And those rides for Merrillville residents are $5 each way. But there is a good part to that also. Yes, we have to pay the $5 to go to and from. Let's say I go to the mall and then one ride back home. But if I go to Walmart, after I go to the mall, which is less than a mile away, then there's no charge for that second wing of the ride. So that's a good thing, and that I don't have to pay $15, I just have to pay the $10. We have been
But it takes some organization on your part to make sure you're doing 2 legs.
Exactly. And then the bus company, they have different problems that they deal with too, in terms of the bus drivers and things like that. Also, we're under Ross Township, under that trustee. It would be wonderful if all trustees could get together and work out a system like they have with with North Township. But that's not been possible yet. We are fortunate though, those of us who attend the Merrillville Senior Center, we're able to ride the buses to and from for free. So, there are some perks to the whole thing. There are negatives that we can find, but then we have to find the positives too. So I just want to stress that. Thank you, Margo.
It seems like you have to almost have a chart, like I can get here from there, and it costs me this much here and this much over there. You really have to work it all out.
Yeah.
So do all the providers provide different charges? They all have different charges?
Yes, I think so.
And different rules for who can ride? And what?
Yes. There are different places that you live in Lake County, that South Lake County may provide ridership, but there are different fares that are, or fees that are assigned to those places. Such as if you're a Hobart resident, well, under the Maria Reiner Foundation, they are able to ride for free. You can ride anywhere you want to go in Lake County. So there are the perks that you get for living in different areas or having an address in different areas.
You gotta have to have a pretty high degree of education. You need to be an educated consumer here. Sure.
Okay, I am disabled as well, but it should not be all of these filling out papers and whatnot only for disabled people, because other people need to ride the bus to and fro as well. So I think if all of the townships would get things together, that way anybody would be able to ride anywhere they need to be.
Who's next here?
I'll say something. I don't find. Yes. My name is Celine Stepaniak. I live in Munster, and I'm so grateful. I can't even find the words to tell you how grateful I am that today AAA picked me up, and AAA picks me up because of Frank Mervan's buses, and AAA work together. And they come right to my house, I've been to the eye doctor this month. I'm going to go get my pacemaker checked. I'm 87 years old. I have one son. My eldest son passed away at 49. And I have, he lives in the far end of, he lives in Morton Grove. At the present time, because of school, and he's the PR man there for the 3 high schools in District 219, he's in New Orleans. It's all dealing with the school and his business. And he always says, Mom, can the bus get you there? Because at a drop of a hat, you can't come 7 times a week or whatever. And I've been to the eye doctor recently. I go get my pacemaker checked. I go to Ultra every Monday with these 2 fine people next to me. And I just can't say there are no words to express how grateful I am for the dial ride.
What would be your other option if you didn't have the
I don't
Dial-A-Ride
know.
service?
I don't know. I wouldn't have anybody. I have neighbors on either side of me. And they're good people, but they have never said, you need a ride. Never, ever. They're nice people. I can't say a mean word against them. But at the same time, they don't say where you need to go. That's never happened. And I live in Munster now 42 years.
Where I grew up, actually, Munster. My mom still lives there.
There's a lady in the blue. Is that a him?
I'm terribly keeping track. Let's hopefully we get to everybody here.
Hi, my name is Sherry Cox. I live in Valparaiso. As far as the public transportation, I love it. But what would I like to see? I would like to be able to get out of Valparaiso once in a while. I would love to connect with Lake County and be able to get out and shop.
Yes.
Do anything I can in Lake County. And also, I would love to connect with other towns within Porter County, Portage, somewhere else. Being disabled and relying only on public transportation and not being able to get out of Valparaiso, I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm independent, but I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
Is it your only mode of transportation? You don't have a car?
I can't drive, no. Since I became disabled, I can no longer drive. I have my daughter, but she has her life. She has a job. She can take me a little bit here and a little bit there, but I have to depend on public transportation for everything. I depended on the V-Line for my doctor's appointment this morning. And then to get here, I depended on Council on Aging. They brought me here. I love the public transportation, but we need to connect. And that's what I say that at all the meetings, every meeting I go to, we need to be able to connect. Somewhere, sometime down the road, we have got to connect. Let me spend my money in Lake County. Let Lake County come to Porter County and spend their money. It's a win-win situation for everybody.
Yes. Can I ask, Valparaiso is kind of one of the real success stories. They started bus service where we saw cutbacks a lot of Lake County. What's the level of support like in Valparaiso for the bus service?
Excellent. Everybody who uses the V-Line loves it. I've not heard any complaints about OE. I use OE still. I used to work for OE. Bruce's company, I've not heard any complaints. I mean, if you see the numbers, you talk to the people here from those companies, and they'll tell you the same thing. They're not perfect. We don't have a perfect transit system wherever we go. We never will. But they're pretty close, especially for the handicapped. And the fares, you cannot pass those fares up. It's a shame that Lake County does not have the success that Valparaiso does.
I kept saying I was going to have a very light touch here. I wasn't going to say that. And I keep asking questions because I'm interested in the topic. This woman here, actually, oh, well, okay. But make sure we get this woman here pretty close because I've seen her hand several times.
My name is Ann Collins. I'm from Merrillville. And I'm surprised that the people from Gary didn't know that we did have a regional transportation system. And we had one, but it disappeared because it could not meet the specifications required, I understand, but we also had disruptive meetings that discouraged people who really wanted it to come. The gentleman who spoke first today, was that Mr. Mervyn?
The trustee?
Yeah. He really said it all. The reason that I'm so concerned, not just I have bus transportation in Merrillville, and if Porter County gets to Lake County, which is disgraceful. But you know, if people had shown up and supported that regional bus transportation system, then we could have talked to Crown Point. We wouldn't have had the people downstate laughing again and said, ha, 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 look at Lake County, they still can't get it together. Instead, we had disruptive meetings that were just a shame. And Mr. Mervyn said what we need in Lake County. What else do we need? We need jobs. We have land out there in Merrillville. We have land in St. John Township. We have land up here that can be redeveloped. But people have to be able to get there to hold the jobs. When companies start looking for areas where they would like to be near, we have terrific train systems, everything else here, airports, but if they're going to build their company here, they have to have people get there. So what do they need to get there? They need transportation. A man that's been laid off for 3 years, he has a skill, been laid off for 3 years because his job closed down. He doesn't have a car that he can afford to run 25 miles to get to the job, or 20 miles, or 5 miles. He probably doesn't have a lot. He probably doesn't have a legal license anymore. But because he can't get there, he can't take the job. So we need jobs. We really need jobs. We need people to get to jobs. We need people who no longer work to be able to take care of their needs without having to pay the cost of a car. I pay over $1,000 a year for car insurance. I pay to maintain that car. And I'm still so fortunate that I can drive that car. And I am delighted, and God is good. But my point is, when you offered something good, which was the regional bus transportation system, and now even the RDA is waiting on state support, will they support the RDA again, or will that be gone? Because the money we got for that regional transportation system was from the RDA. Now, listen to me a minute. I'm really upset about this, and I'm really serious. What we need in Lake County is bus transportation, or some reasonable amount of transportation that can connect to Valpo, and hopefully later on, further on. But you can't do it unless the Lake County Commissioners, the Lake County Council, and downstate stop laughing at us.
Amen.
That's really my pitch, and Mr. Mervyn, thank you so much.
We got a lead right away?
be brief, just make a quick point. My name is Jeremy Miller. I represent what many of you may not be aware of is what we're calling the Emerging Leaders Network out of all 3 counties that I represent in this room today. It's a group of 30 and 40-somethings that are getting together on a monthly basis to identify key issues in the region that we believe will move us into the next generation. The number one thing that is on our agenda is public transportation. Buses and trains. We believe that to be the future to economic development and many other things. So I want you to know that there's another voice out there that many of you have heard or seen from yet. But we are out there and we're trying to do the best we can. We hosted the Avalon event on the train situation back in March, and we'll be doing some things next year as well. But the bus system and regional transportation is high on our radar. I'd also like to make 2 other quick points. First and foremost, Frank and Ty couldn't be 2 better people to lead us in this direction. Whether you agree with that or not, they have the experience, the knowledge, and understanding of the region to help us get us there. I would suspect and hope that you give them some time and some opportunity. As Frank mentioned, a new beginning needs to happen. Whatever I've done in the past, let's move forward. The last thing is this group that we represent of 30 and 40-something young professionals don't want a car. They want to take public transportation. So the myth of the rich drive the cars and the poor ride the buses, it is moving on as that generation passes. These millennials that are coming up, they don't want a car. That's why the brain drain is happening as well, is because there's nothing in this area to keep them here, and there's no public transportation. So I thank you for your time, and
My daughter is a senior in high school at Valparaiso and hasn't gotten a license yet. It doesn't seem all that eager to get one. Perfectly happy that me driving around, or she uses the buses in Valparaiso.
My name is Barbara Blackman. I live in Gary, Indiana, and I take transportation for the disabled. That's what brought me out here. I thank you for going as far as Indianapolis Boulevard. Now I can go see one of my doctors. But I have a son having surgery Saturday on his back in Community Hospital, and I can't get into Munster. I have no transportation there. I also am always asking about the talking buses. When the buses come and, Gary buses, that they would let you know what street they're stopping at, like Chicago buses. I'm visually disabled. And also, I didn't have a printout in large print today. I'd like to mention that. And I'm hard of hearing, so I'm able to hear, what's said today because everybody's talking pretty good. Thank you.
All right. Part of a modern system is to have modern equipment.
Hi, my name is Renee Jackson. I've been dealing with transportation issues for over 20 years. At one point over 20 years ago, I did work with Everybody Counts, and I stepped away, and I come back 20 years later, and nothing has changed. That's so sad. Different people, but the same attitudes. Instead, I'm like everybody else. We need a regional public transportation system. Instead of doing what other communities do and building off what we already have, NIRPC supported the creation of a new organization which spent millions of dollars and did a really lousy job. Then it went out of business, and that made the Hammond residents really screwed because they had no way to have any kind of transportation. GBTC has the history, they have the expertise, they have the equipment, the maintenance garage, and the ability. We should be building off of what's already there instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. Some say it's, it's a racial issue that why GBTC isn't getting the money that they need. But, I think it's a matter of control because they don't need the federal dollars. They don't receive the money from NIRPC. They have the federal dollars of their own. NIRPC puts a lot of money and work into developing our communities in places that the public transit does not go. People need public transit for more than just going to the doctor. People with disabilities, we just don't go to the doctor. We like to go to the movies. We like to visit people. We like to just get on the bus and go. If we only have a reason, just ride. We don't have to have a go to the doctor mentality all the time. Yeah, we like to socialize. Thank you. All the economic studies that were done about expanding the train line, why haven't we looked into the economic impact of letting more people get to jobs and to places where they will spend their money? I'll stress it again, we need a regional public transit system. And it's not just for those that are disabled. The community in itself needs it. Just because the majority of the people here are disabled, we're fighting for equality for everybody, for transportation for everybody, not just us.
Yeah, gentleman right there, wheelchair.
My name is Robert Dabrowski, and I live in Maryville, and I am disabled. And I am also an amputee and legally blind. And I have one question that Barbara here had. How come there is no material here in Braille or large print? Because besides me, there are other people that can use Braille or large print materials. That's number one. I was told there would be Braille materials here. Call Steve at NIRPC. I did not get any response. I left him my phone number, and when I get her, there's no large print materials.
Is there someone from NIRPC who can answer that question at all?
Steve is right up there, I believe. Steve left the message.
Yes, Mr. Dabrowski and others who were interested in material, we didn't bring any handouts. We didn't know what to bring. We didn't get any specific requests. So if you have a particular document you'd like to see in a particular format, please call us and let us know. We'll be happy to do it. But we didn't get any requests for specific documents, and we didn't know. But you didn't say which documents you wanted, sir.
I said I need something because I'm legally blind, large print. I left Steve my phone number. If he had any questions,
She wasn't listening.
I didn't even get a call. He deliberately probably did not listen.
Again, sir, what did you want in large print? We didn't hand anything out.
What did you hand out?
No,
We didn't hand out anything. Everybody counts did. Talk to them.
Whatever was supposed to be in large print.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Is this presentation going to be available for somebody who is visually impaired? And where do they get that?
You can contact our NIRPC offices, and again, if you have that phone number, it's 219-763-6060. Also, www.nirpc.org.
I'm sorry, Ty, you were, okay, did you answer this question?
Yeah, excuse me, I just wanted to get clarification because I'm not sure I understood. The gentleman said he didn't get any large print or Braille handout. And you're saying, however, NIRPC did not provide any handout, any print material, correct? Okay, so nobody has anything. If somebody else provided a handout, that's whatever. And then as far as things being, when you said this, I think you, sir, asked if this will be available.
Yeah.
When something is available online, it can either be a person who has the software to read online, if they can't read it visually, can read it. If they don't, then the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that the person who provided the material make it available in large print or Braille or some other method that the person can use. So I think, people may not know that, yes, this will be available to everyone in the format they required. Braille might take a day or two, but right now nobody has anything because the material that's being transcribed, that's what you put on on your computer. Is that correct, sir, Mr. Warner? This transcript. Because right now there is nothing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so after this meeting, a day or two, this information on the screen will be transcribed and a link on your computer. And a person who has the software to read it, if they can't read it visually, will be able to. And if they can't, they call your office and request large print, Braille, whatever. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I was hearing a lot of different things, and I just wanted to make sure I understood it, and perhaps somebody else had the same questions.
Are you with NIRPC?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Got hands coming up here.
Okay, also, I have another issue. I live in Merrillville. I had to cancel one doctor appointment coming up 3 times because of poor transportation out here. I had a 9 a.m. appointment. I called South Lake County Community Services. They tell me they can't pick nobody up before 9. So I had to change it once. And then my appointment was on the 11th. I was told they don't run on the 11th Veterans Day. I had to change it the second time. So now I'm going to call them the third time and see if they can take me on Monday the 10th. Now, I had taken Gary public transit, paratransit before, the outside therapy, the VA hospital in Crown Point. I never had any complaints about Gary public transit. I think their help is excellent, their service is excellent, but the problem is they don't go all over. At one point, when the RBA was in existence, I could get a ride to Munster, where this doctor appointment is in 2 weeks, so I have to call Salt Lake County now. I called RBA a couple weeks ago, because I'm on Medicare, Medicaid, and supplement. They used to pick me up when they were doing the work for RBA. They're telling me now they don't go south of 61st Avenue, just take me to Munster.
It's on the RBA anymore. Who's that?
You mean AAA?
AAA won't take me.
Okay.
They don't go south of 61st Avenue, and I live like 76th Avenue, a couple miles away. That I don't understand. The way I look at it, I think, like Renee said, Gary Public Transit is capable with their drivers, and I know their drivers have good sensitivity training. They're very polite. I think they should take care of the whole region. That's how I would like to see it.
All right.
And that's people would too.
We got Rudy here with his arm up, and he hasn't spoken yet, so. Arm way up.
Don't hurt my neck. My name is Rudy Velasco. Couple quick points. Number one, the attitude about NIRPC with disabled. There's some group here where they're between 30 and 40, and they want to see improvement in the region. Well, 45 to 64, the age group, we have 20% people that are disabled in the state of Indiana. So keep that in mind. It's a good thing they're there because they got a plan for the future. And you would not be here as advertised if it wasn't that we had filed a lawsuit against NIRPC. I've been to public meetings that they have, they're never advertised. The last one I went to, there was 2, and there was one little sign that just said NIRPC. They didn't say anything about public transit. As far as for large print, all this was a ploy to be safe rather than sorry. I've been at a NIRPC meeting of the commissioners, and this is the attitude that is being pushed forth. Tom McDermott, the mayor, was reading one of the reports, and we always ask that every NIRPC meeting have standard larger print for people that are able to attend. That's why their meetings are in Portage. There is no transit over there. There is no transit there to voice your opinion.
It's a setup.
So, as far as the large print, McDermott asked at the meeting, hey, I can't see this. I need larger print. Their response is, oh, you're getting old, and they started laughing. Now, is this an organization that's supposed to lead the way? They have the opportunity to lead the way for people with disability here in this region. We have a D rating by the Governor's Planning Council. There's no excuse for that. They're more concerned about a bicycle route rather than giving transportation, giving money so people can get. About the study, that was one of the things we brought up before. Why don't you study how much money is going to be spent by people riding in the buses? If you're an older person, you do remember riding from Gary over here to Hammond and spend money. I come from a poor family. I was from a family of 10. That bus was our transit. There ain't nothing like a Go-Blitz hamburger. Well, we used to ride there back then, okay? The region was prosperous. We do meetings, we collaborate with Workforce One. We're trying to go. I'm attending meetings. Couple people disabled. I got a job, but I can't go. I don't have no transportation. I said, wake up, NIRPC, wake up. Thank you.
Now, John, I don't want to spend the whole meeting talking about different access issues, but Ty, is there anything you want to respond to as far as the level of access you're able to provide, or way public meetings are conducted, or anything at all?
Sure, absolutely. You know, NIRPC is, first of all, there's a comment made about the location of NIRPC. It is in Portage, and it's true, there's no transit service to get there. That was moved there about 20 years ago, and we are remaining in that location. So we know that that's an issue. The comment I would make is that transit is changeable. I mean, transit does go to where the people are, and there are marketing studies to do about demographics to help show the demand for transit in certain areas. Transit is not a static thing like fixed rail where it has to be in that location. There are other studies happening for the South Shore extension and whatnot, for marketing marketing draw for residents along that line to try to look at the need for that route. Similar kind of thing happens for transit. So we're aware that that's an issue at NIRPC's location. And, but conceivably, transit lines can change to be able to be brought to that location, but that's where we're at. Yeah, and the comment about the large print too. I mean, first of all, I don't want to go back to that situation with Tom McDermott. I think that's out of context to what happened in that meeting. But he did. But you know, the large print issue, we have a notice at every of our materials about requesting large print formats, and we provide that for folks when they request it. To be able to provide that on the site.
I've seen a lot of second hands up here, people who have spoken before. Do we have anybody here who hasn't really had a chance yet? I want to make sure that everything right there in the back. Oh, no, John, right? No, let's. All right, let's go to the back. Let's get time. We have plenty of time.
My name is Nancy Ebert. I'm from Hammond. We here on. Okay. My name is Nancy Ebert. I live in Hammond. We in Western Lake County have been the aborted child of transportation for a short period of time because Frank and Chip from AAA have really serviced us well within the restraints that they have to stay within. Of course, we all want transportation to everywhere. Everybody does. If it's feasible. Our corporations being contacted, if they can make money, they're certainly going to possibly contribute. I don't hear any solutions to any of the problems. All I ever hear at these meetings are complaints. And everybody wanting their personal attention. I live within my area very happily because I'm thankful for the people that do serve us. And why do we have to always come to meetings and listen to the same complaints that can't be resolved until there are solutions that are offered? Now, if it's an economic thing, which obviously it always is, we're in a big downswing. I'm sorry, I lose my voice a lot. Anyway, corporate entities like Target, they mention Walmart, they mention different places. If they want their bottom line to be up higher, hey, maybe they'll get involved. Who knows? Has anybody ever contacted big business to see what they think about having any transportation? Probably they have, but just a thought that popped into the brain. But everyone always complains. Oh, we need a centralized one entity that we can all have, and everybody gets everything they want. That isn't how the world works. Fair isn't fair. It doesn't exist. You take what you can get and then you work toward better and be kind and help people to offer what they really need. And eventually it'll be solved if it's on a one-on-one basis or a one on 10,000 basis. Doesn't matter. We still have to use logic. We still have to use our intelligence, whether it's high, low, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. We all want centralized transportation hub. But where's it going to be? It has to be set up so that it has, okay, we have a centralized hub, but we also have its little spokes that go out that can serve the communities. And that way they're all covered. You have communication between Hammond and Valparaiso because you can go straight through wherever the hub is and it can be transferred. Can't solve the money problem. Maybe you can get some of these businesses to contribute a percentage of their minuscule profits. I know that's a joke. I'm sorry.
What would be your solution?
I'm sorry. I had
To
to
the local
say
funding
something.
problem? What would be your solution to the local funding?
The local funding, I know we are all counting on politics to do it. Politics don't go very far. We can't. They can't. They can't serve everybody. And yes, I'm disabled. No one sees all of my disabilities. They see that I'm on a scooter. Oh well, that's called life. It happens. I was bedridden from the age of 43. But that's immaterial. I'm happy. I'm so very happy and thankful for Chip and AAA, for Frank and for the Dial-A-Ride people that serve me so well. They do care. And they're here too. They want a solution, but the centralized hub, okay, find a place, have your centralized hub, but have spokes going out to the different major entities at first, obviously. But have we ever hit big business with their contributions? If they want more customers, well then, hey, kick in a little bit. But nobody wants to kick in a little bit, obviously. I don't know if you guys have touched big business. I really don't. But they would also have a larger pool of employees if they were to help with the transportation problems that we have here. Funding is hard to get. It's hard to get money out of people. They're hanging on to it with tight fists. But if you go about it just yelling and hollering and complaining, nothing is ever going to be accomplished that way. It just isn't. People will listen to you, they'll smile and understand and walk away. It just, the greasing wheel isn't true anymore. Oh well, I'm sorry. My 3 minutes are up and I will respect that.
I'm glad you were timing it. Remember, we're trying to get to everybody who has the first time around, who hasn't spoken yet once. And the gentleman over here who has the helper and who wasn't being particularly helpful with it just a moment ago. Sir?
Go, Reverend.
Use that microphone, man.
I really don't know.
Put the
Where's
mic
this
on.
toilet?
We can't hear.
Put your mic up close.
Yeah, I don't have enough hands.
Would you like me to hold mine? I can, or I can hold this?
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
I too, as many have said in here, am impaired in different ways. One of the strangest things that I thank God for giving me something I didn't even realize I had. There are many people in here who have eyes, but they can't see.
Hello?
There are people in here who have ears, can't hear.
Preach.
And I'm thankful. When I was a kid, I was exceptional at having 20/10 vision. Most people are 20/20. I never dreamed that I would have the sight I have now. Blind in one eye and almost totally blind in the other eye. I have a hearing impairment as well. Some other things happened to me. I've been hit by a car and left for dead. But as the young lady said earlier, those are just things that happen in life. You move on, and we taught to survive. Many of us here are overcomers. What I found out that growing up, my mom, glaucoma, and 30 years or plus, I watched her, the trade wind deal, the whole 9 yards. And it's amazing to me that it's the same old song. People that have complain about people that don't have. People that don't have complain about people that have. And instead of the two coming together to make everybody have, all they do is divide. And I didn't come here to divide. I came here to bring together. And hopefully that can happen. We're talking about the garden. That's NIRPC, the garden. Now, for years, there's been a watermelon patch. That's GPTC. Watermelon patch was the biggest thing here as long as there was Ben Gary, plus 100 years. The main entity. People that didn't have public transportation, you've heard the people that told you about where they could go. My dad even went to South Shore, took it, went to watch the movie, got popcorn for 25 cents. He went and rode the train and watched the movie, I can't say, and ate popcorn for 25 cents. So that's back quite some time. But public transportation was the way that they went. As young people, those that have disability, there's a lot of things going on, and some people have spoke about that. My dad was in the military, and I've been all kinds of places. And my dog's named Moses. He's helping to deliver some things, including me, some things. But what I want to really say is that I've been all over the place, living here and there all my life. And when I came here, this was one of the craziest places I've ever been in. All the places I've been to, all over the place. It's just crazy here. So divided. It's unbelievable how divided people are here. I know people that are here, and I have friends all over the place. And I was able to drive for 47 years. I'm 64 now. For the last 17 years, I've experienced it personally myself. Freedom. I drove my car. I won't mention my doctor. I'd come in there, and he asked me, Mr. McCraven, some call me affectionately Reverend Mac, and I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. Probably most people know who I am, but that's still not the proper way to do it. I'm affectionately called Reverend Mac. And I'd do this, he'd ask me, do you have your keys? I'm a person that looks for freedom for everybody. There's nothing more powerful than freedom. And I know I can get an amen on that. Amen. There's nothing more powerful. When you start losing some of that, you find every way you know how to get it back. That's right. Anyhow, the kind of way you can find it, get it back. I drove my car for 8 years with one eye and a half gone. Glory to God. Because I couldn't get public transit, couldn't get the people who were around me. Hey, can you take me? Well, no, they got different excuse why they couldn't take me. At first, it's all fine. It's like when you lose a loved one. Everybody's patting you on the back. Oh, I'm so sorry. And that. And about 24 hours later, you don't hear none of it no more. You're left alone again. And it's the same thing here. And I want to say to some people that they bring it up and they don't understand. It's all about ignorance. It's about teaching people how not to know something. And when people don't know something, knowledge is power. You don't want them to know it. You don't want them to know it. out the street. I didn't grow up in church. You this, and I did this, and I had a really dark background. And God brought me into light. Glory to God. And I thanked him for it. And I had people come tell me, can you pray that God would help my husband so he could become like you? And the craziest thing happens. When they get like me and they start doing things right, they find out, they come back to me and say, hey, I didn't want them that right, because they weren't doing right.
Right.
And that's the same thing that happens when people learn knowledge. They require something out of the other people, because now you know something. But when you keep people ignorant, keep people not knowing, it's amazing how powerful that is. People don't want people to come where they're going to change. People don't want the truth. You can speak truth to people all day long, and what they do, they walk away from it. You can tell them a lie, and you get people look at TV all day long, because that's what the television people turn on all day long. And watch the television. Watch the lies in the media. Taking people and transforming people's minds to believe one way. And I'm thankful because there's people here. Everybody here has this. There's 4 things. You frame things and don't realize it. Whatever you believe, you begin to put in a frame and you hang it up. And I got back to this garden with this watermelon. Glory to God. And then there's this garden that's got the grape. That's for these little entities around here. Then you got the plum, another entity. And the plum is being tried to be made by the gardener into an eggplant. There's some good things about eggplant, but most people don't like it. Look at it as I don't want that. But it seems like everybody likes the watermelon. But for whatever reason, the watermelon is getting shrinking. The watermelons are getting small. But then there's the honeydew. There's a cantaloupe. Glory to God. So why have we got all these other things that are there instead of putting them all in the same basket and making it just one thing out the garden that everybody brings all the money to the same garden? We're dividing it all over the place.
Thank you.
All right. And the thing I want to say before I sit down is I lived in what's called the dead zone. Before that, because what she's talking about, the young lady, we had that. I used to ride $2 all around Lake County. So don't tell me you couldn't do it. All around Lake County, $2. $2 to get off. I had friends in Sherrville, Munster, because I worked in the mill with Brother Rudy. And I had friends all over the place. I'm a likable person like my dog. I had friends all over the place. They stuck me with a Ku Klux Klan guy, thought we were going to get along. They stuck me with white supremacists, thought we were going to get along. I can get along with the devil. Glory to God. But what I want to know is, why are we having such a problem recognizing, okay, we need to come together? I'm not going to say what it is, because most of us know what it is. We know it. But this is the point I'm saying. I lived in the dead zone. The dead zone was called the Maryville because we had a bus. We had the Ross Township. I lived in Crown Point. It took me 2 years calling this people. I'm not mentioning names, but they know who they are. 2 years to call them Mr. Nursey, because I'm going to call you Mr. Nursey. Mr. Nursey, 2 years I called out to the RBA people, and the person with a TB, blah, 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 until he come to me and talked to me. He said, well, I heard you wanted to ride on my bus system. Because I said to him, I said, well, maybe it's because I got too much fudge in it. And he laughed. He laughed, just as you said about the mayor. He laughed. But it wasn't really funny to me because I lived out there for 2 years and I was asked all kinds of things. How come, are you sure you don't live in Gary? I live in Crown Point, 9493, Monroe Street, Crown Point. I lived there. I couldn't get a bus for a while until when I got hooked up more into this, the next thing I know, I'm getting a call is, would you like to ride in our service? Now,
I gave you the minister's 3 minutes, okay?
No, that's 10. That's 10. So I got three of the hardest ones. I got 10. But I took and waited for everybody else to talk. I waited. I want to make sure we get all the everybody else. And I want to say this last thing. I want to say this last thing. Can I say this last thing? Sure, do it. I love you anyhow. Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Can I be my last thing?
All right.
Can I be my last thing?
Yes, sir.
You're not saying nothing.
Yes, he said yes.
He said yes, come on.
Well, let you know that I wasn't lying about I can't hear you standing in front.
Okay, all right.
God bless everybody. But let's get together. Let's get together. People are here, and I'll tell you something else, and you gave me an extra minute, so you pull my coattail. When you don't pull a coattail, you don't know nothing about preaching. You don't pull a coattail, that means sit down. You didn't do that.
Well, you kept my hands full.
But anyway, what I'm going to say is it's something good. That is everybody saying, once the people you get on the bus system seem to work, they work good. But why can't they work good as one entity? Why can't they work good as one hub? That's all I want to know.
All right.
When and how. And but by the way, you know what? Next year is 50 years. 50 years since 1965. And how long does it take to find out how to get deported? 20 years. From East Chicago, from Whiting. They say they can't get transportation deported. Did you hear them? Is that you? Is that part of you too?
That's not part of me.
Oh, well, somebody, they can't find out how to get deported. They can't get a bus route deported. So that people can come to the meeting. That's what I heard. Did I hear that right? Did I hear that right? Somebody listen to me. They pull my coattail.
All right. Fresh hands. Who's the fresh hands? Who has not spoken yet? All right. Here you go. Yeah, George, you've never spoken at a public meeting. All right.
My name is Jack Clausen. I live in Valpo. I said, my name is Jack Clausen. I live in Valpo. I have two comments that I didn't realize until I walked in this room. Number one, you know why they call us special needs? Because we are special.
That's right.
Everybody else out there is common.
That's right. Say it, brother. You got it.
So, we have something to be proud of.
I'm proud of you.
And just because we are handicapped.
Oh, no, I'm not handicapped. I'm disabled. I'm impaired. You don't put a cap in my hand and walk around.
I didn't interrupt you, sir.
I'm sorry, I apologize, but that offends me to hear that I'm
My
handicapped.
second comment is, on these regional, on whatever committee that meets in Portage, and for all the other top hierarchy of the bus lines and train lines and all of that, how many of those people are handicapped?
Yeah.
How many of those people get in their Cadillac or their Olds or whatever and forget about what they're really, who's paying them? We're the fools that's paying them. And us fools need to grow and become, there need to be more of us here. I mean, what, there's maybe 50, 60 people in this room? There ought to
That's
be
an improvement.
5,000 or 6,000 in this room, and maybe the people that are in charge will go, whoa.
They don't want you to know.
But I don't think anybody really understands how many is out there.
They don't care.
I mean, my wife's like the young man over here. She's blind in one eye and can barely see out of the other one. She's in a wheelchair because Vanny got a hold of her, shattered her femur.
Wow.
We've all got a special story. But that's because we're different than the average people.
You're awesome. Keep talking.
Nah, I think most people want to say, sit down, fat old man.
No.
Just remember.
Where are you from again, and how often do you use public transit right now?
Right now, I don't use it as much as I could because Valpo is on a fixed route. And there again, I live about a half a mile from the where they pick up at. I have COPD, and there are days I can't walk half a mile. And I have to make special allowances so that they could come to my front door and I could get on it. Right now, I'm capable enough to where I can drive. But in December, I got hit with glaucoma, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to drive. So
what do you think the solution is? What's the solution?
the solution? Walk a mile in his shoes, or her shoes, or her shoes. But nobody wants to do that. They say they want to do it, but they don't want to do it. Because they find out how hard life is. When you sit down, when you go out to get the mail at the end of the driveway, you get out of breath before you come back? Well, that's called COPD. And when I was a baby, they called it asthma. I still think, and I always will, that if you're going to have a commission for handicap, part of the commission needs to be handicapped, so they can fight for what we need.
Very good.
George, you're in the back business, folks.
Very good. Very good.
Then it'll be the lady over here who hasn't spoken, in the corner here. George?
Hi, my name is George T. Janik, and I'm a meek and humble citizen of Lake County, Indiana, the region more specifically of Hammond, Indiana. You know, transportation is, I don't know how much anecdotal, historical evidence is brought up before I arrived, but we've had transportation, we lost it, now we're trying to get it back again. I mean, it's a typical scenario that we've seen with a lot of other things that have happened in our lifetime, or other situations and services and events. But basically being involved in transportation for probably about the last 25 years to see exactly what can be done about it, where it needs to go, you know, all of the problems and all of the circumstances pretty much boil down to, you know, basically a few fundamental components. And trying to find solutions for those fundamental components is going to be as complex as providing public transportation. Obviously, it's not easy because we've been trying for a long, long time. Transportation, in essence, is almost like the Loch Ness Monster, in that today you figure with geo-earth and cell phones and everything else, we bound to have found that rascal someplace or a picture. Well, in essence, we've done the same thing with transportation. Despite a lot of services, a lot of community involvement, a lot of elected officials and agencies involvement in it, you know what? We still can't find it. And so we'll continue for that quest because it's an important asset, not just to the citizens, and it's the right thing to do, but also to the community as a service and also as an economic booster. The things that I see in transportation is the complex issues are funding, planning, and execution more than anything else. And wrapped in and overlapping all over the areas is frustration. You can hear, communication, you can hear a lot of the frustration coming out in the communication here, and it basically incorporates a lot of those three elements, which is funding, planning, and execution. So what are the potential solutions? Well, right now you're taking a look at Congressman Piskowski's push to get the West End Rail Corridor. Public transportation, or some semblance, or a seeding of public transportation should have been included with that, because it goes hand in hand with rail transportation. And I mean, they complement each other tremendously. If you take a look at a lot of the western suburbs, where a similar type of concept is being employed, public transportation is an essential complementary element to the rail transit also. Number two, you have the RDA. One of the demonstration projects that was entrusted to the RDA was public transportation. And we haven't seen anything yet. We've seen a couple of weak attempts at introducing public transportation, and they've failed. They basically died on the vine. So what do we need? So what do we need to do? Well, basically, funding. I propose my solutions or areas we need to take a look at least to get transportation seated. You can get it started, then you have to. Then obviously the plan is necessary, but I think it's the execution and the leadership of the execution which is very critical. We've tried public transportation here, we've had some funding here, It was called the RPA, it failed miserably, and in my opinion, and I qualify this statement, in my opinion, it failed because of bad leadership and nothing more than that.
Yes.
We didn't have, we didn't have the right people managing the entire concept. If you start a restaurant, you don't have auto mechanics manage the food industry. So when you start transportation, you should bring in professionals who are involved in transportation to manage and help develop that idea, rather than retreaded politicals from some other service, some other elected service area where they were at. That's why it failed more than anything else. I think there was a lot of good ground people there, but if you don't know how to manage it, you don't understand transportation, it's not easy. And I support my case more than anything else by the fact that grassroots efforts have been able to coordinate professional transit agencies such as North Township's Dial-A-Ride, GPTC, East Chicago Public Transit. We're able to coordinate those agencies to provide service opportunities for events, and it's worked very, very well. So we know that it does work. We know that the professionals in those areas are very effective. You take a look at Gary Public Transit. They continue to evaluate and establish new transit opportunities for people, and it's successful. So it can be done. I mean, that's the supporting element in the fact, and that's why I say it was bad leadership more than anything else that caused the RPA to fail. Now, are you going to be able to provide a public transit agency that's going to make everybody happy? It's impossible. It's just not going to happen. But you got to start someplace. You got to have a ground floor kind of insertion here into the area to find out just what the issues are and work from that. It's going to take a lot of cooperation. It's going to take a lot of patience on a lot of people's part. But it's there. The resources are there. The talent's there. The funding, obviously, we'll have to look for again. But I think that, you know, those opportunities with the RDA and the rail corridor should have provided us the foot in the door, so to speak, to get something on the table to support the existing efforts, grassroots efforts, in collaboration with the professional transit agencies here. Outside of that, communication is essential, and you're going to hear a lot of frustration. What you do is you have to take a look at the fact that all criticism has value. There's a reason why people are criticizing, and you have to be able to take that objectively and somehow form that into then part of the solutions for transportation. And that's my 15 minutes on the soapbox, and thank you.
All right, let's make sure we're heading into the last half hour now. So if you haven't spoken, start thinking of what you want to say. This woman over here in the corner, she was the next one. Yeah, we've got about a half an hour left. We'll get into some of the folks that want to speak again, but first we want to get to the folks who haven't.
My name is Esther, and I live in Hammond. And my thing is with the funding, has Lakeshore thought about maybe banquets, fundraisers, silent auctions? And if you call, and I would be willing to, I don't have a computer, I'd like to have one. My question is, if you call the businesses in Hobart, Maryville, Crown Point, all these towns, Highland, and then, you know, save your pop cans, save your newspapers, recycle them, get money, have that money go to the public transportation system. Has that been thought of?
Can anybody from NIRPC talk at all about whether or not there's ever been a volunteer element to this, whether or not people looked at trying to get the local match by using volunteers in any way?
I'm not aware of any effort. I don't know.
All right. It's a lot of money, though, I would say.
It would be a lot of money because, I mean, Community Hospital in Munster is doing all this stuff. And you know, they're getting, these patients are getting pop cans to drink how many times a day? And that's just like money thrown in the trash can when it could go to all the public transportations for Northwest Indiana, Porter County, and all the other counties.
Teresa, you I guess you haven't spoken during the actual hearing here, so you're on first up.
Thank you. Couple of quick things. First of all, I want to make sure, if I didn't make it clear earlier, that I wanted to commend Gary Public Transit, East Chicago Transit, and North Township Trustees Dial-A-Ride Services, because they are working with the people with respect. And we appreciate that. We think that serves as a model as to what needs to happen in the future. You know, we've heard about Valparaiso service. One of the major differences between what's happening in Valparaiso and what we had in Lake County is that Valparaiso's bus services started in recent years. And what they did before they started it was have public meetings like this, where they actually invited people to come, had them at times and places where people could get there and listen to the people. And that's what we need more of. Now, our biggest criticism of NIRPC historically has been their lack of legitimate, what we perceive as legitimate effort to actively engage the real stakeholders in the community in the dialogue. They have a public participation plan. In that public participation plan, it will tell you that everybody counts endorses the content. That is incorrect. Am I right? Those people work, okay. Now, the reason that it's incorrect is because we asked it to contain expectation and accountability, which would say, when we do this event, these are the outreach steps we'll take. Instead, what we were told yesterday at the meeting nobody knew about was, we're going to have a shopping list, this us being NIRPC, and that shopping list is going to have a whole lot of different things that we can pick and choose from. How does that tell you what your rights are? How does that say that they're guaranteed? See, this kind of process today, this doesn't happen. So I, for one, want to commend you, Mr. Walsh, for enabling the people to speak freely and to facilitating answers, making sure they get answers for a part. Thank you. And this is what needs to continue. So if NIRPC learns anything out of this, I want to know, I would like to hear a commitment today that instead of calling the police when 6 senior citizens show up at a meeting holding little signs, that NIRPC start recognizing, you know, change is messy and so is interacting with the public, but that is your job. I'm sorry. So that's what we need. We need a commitment that there will be more of these opportunities, that instead of putting survey up on a shopping list, that you'll put one out there. Put it on your website, put it in the newspapers, use the community, all the organizations in the community. Don't give us lip service, let us help you make sure we get service. Yay! Oh, and one last thing, were you going to talk about people calling? Everybody counts. Okay, one of the things I heard earlier was, the gentleman said that when you have people with disabilities, organizations, they need to be actively involved in it. For those who don't know, everybody counts. The majority of our board of directors and the majority of our staff are people with disabilities. And working together, we form what's called the Council on Accessible Transit, once again with support from the previously mentioned folks. How many members of the Council on Accessible Transportation are here today?
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski, did you quit? Okay, thank you. I want to make sure. So my point is, the reason I wanted to put that out there is if there are any individuals with disabilities, or frankly anybody, but any individuals with disabilities out there, that's right, Deborah, I forgot you. I'm sorry, I didn't look to my left. If there are any who are interested in getting more involved in this issue with respect to transportation, please call us. Please go to Renee right there, or Rudy over there. Rudy, put your hand up. Give them your contact information or call us, 769-5055, and we'll make sure that you are invited to the meetings and the opportunities we have to continue talking about this topic. You can make the changes here, so we need you to help. Thank you.
Going to a commercial here, so we've got to move on. So is anybody who has not spoken yet want to get a chance to speak before we wrap up this session? The attorney back there. Oh no, we're down to the attorney. It's gotten that bad. Yes. And then it'll be this woman here. She's also interested.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to make one comment, and this really goes to the
the large format. I know that's been an issue in question that a couple of folks that have talked to. And I just want to note that there was an obligation for folks that haven't seen the settlement agreement that we entered into. There was an obligation to ensure that, you know, information that was made available at this presentation was made available here in alternative formats. So the fact that a decision was made to use the PowerPoint, you know, I will confess that that PowerPoint was shared with me yesterday afternoon. I erroneously made the assumption that if the PowerPoint was going to be shown, that there would be a mechanism for persons with visual impairment, etc., to have, you know, be able to follow along to the presentation that was provided. And I heard, I think it was Ms. Sandow that had indicated that, well, the ADA technically requires X, Y, and Z, but the settlement agreement had different requirements in it. So that's just to kind of want to make sure that everyone is aware, you know, and to the extent that you had made the request for the, you know, the large format, I do think that the spirit of the agreement would have required or should have had those materials being provided here in the large format for, you know, persons that had made the request. So that was all I wanted to say.
Okay. Very good.
Hello everyone, my name is Raquel Castro and I work for Health Visions Midwest. We develop programs that impact chronic disease, and we know that mobility impacts health, economic development, and the flourishing of the people in our communities. We're here, their voice is they need more transportation. We're having an event in East Chicago for emergency preparedness. We're so thankful that we have East Chicago Transit, who always is there for us, and also Mr. Marvan. We need that. We definitely have that from them. But we need more because we know people are concerned and they're constantly telling us that the system is fragmented. But I really want to thank all of you and commend everyone here in this room. We're here for the people. We're not working for ourselves. We work for the people. Thank you.
All right, we're actually going to go. Very quick one now.
I'll be brief. I think this has been interesting to be able to sit and hear from people. You know, and I see a variety of responses. People who are not happy with public transportation as it is today. Those that are happy but see the need for improvements. And then those who are happy with what they have access to. So I see a variety of responses today. You know, in the city of Fulbert, we're not the biggest city in Lake County. We're a community of about 29,000, but on a given day with our commercial districts and workplaces, we can swell to anywhere between probably 60 to 100,000 people. And so we've had to get creative in our transportation needs with what's accessible to us right now. A good example is Gary Public Transportation. They have been great to work with. They provide some extension of their bus service to our Northwinds development, which is out on Mississippi Street. When we approached them about a need to extend their service about another half mile, they were willing to work with us, and I want to commend Mr. Wright for doing that. South County has been wonderful to work with our seniors and those with needs. We've also had, you know, some conversation with Valparaiso about possibly working with them on a possible stop with the dash. So as a community, we've had to try to tackle this on multiple fronts. And maybe other communities may need to do the same thing. And as far as NIRPC, please keep in mind, yes, this is the regional planning group, but it's for a 3-county. Sometimes, and I'm going to be very blunt, sometimes we in Lake County feel like we're the big brother and our focus is constantly on Lake County. Okay? And I'm from Lake County, I've lived in Lake County all my life. But I always have to keep in mind as chairman this year at NIRPC that we represent 3 counties. We represent Lake County, Porter County, and LaPorte County. And so we have to represent the populations of all 3 counties. And sometimes that's a balancing act. And as elected officials that come to represent your various communities, certainly communicating with them on an ongoing, your concerns is important. And I just want to say thank you today for everyone that took the time to come here and state your concerns. And I think that's how we as an elected official, and I know there's other elected officials here from other communities, that's important for us to hear firsthand. So, Steve, I want to commend you for facilitating as far as the moderator, and certainly the legal staff that are here from Everybody Counts and NIRPC, and everybody that played a part in this, Ty and the staff. I think this has been a team effort, and you know, I know sometimes Teresa and I have agreed on things, and sometimes we disagree, but I think that's where everybody coming together and trying to work for the common good for everyone, and understanding everybody has different needs, that's where things can get accomplished. So I'll shut up, Steve.
All right, thanks, Rick. Is there anybody else? Number one, who has not spoken yet? Any of the other providers or folks from the other communities who haven't had a chance yet? What are we pointing at? This gentleman here wants to go at number 2. Let's do it. We've got a couple more minutes. Let's go to number 2.
Yes, hello again. I remember the young lady in the corner, she said that a lot of times people just kind of concern themselves with their own situation. You know, like they say, you know, once a man, twice a baby. I don't subscribe to that, because when I look around and I see disabled people and elderly people, especially these people, you know, at one time were very mobile in their life, you know, I think about that if the good Lord allows me to live, that I might be down that road, as maybe someone be an advocate for me. So I hate to see, you know, and hear them complain about their ailments, because my mother now is down, and she's only 70 years young. And I don't like to see people in that situation, especially if they were contributing to, you know, the community, and a lot of them have impressive background. Even if they don't have impressive background, they still mean something to us, even if they don't mean a lot to the community as a whole, as an elected official, a doctor, whatever. You know, so I just want to say that. And I know that we always complain about things like she was saying, and like the Rev was saying, knowledge, yes. We feel that if we don't know a lot of things, you know, they like that, so, you know, it can be the blind leading the blind, you know, no pun intended. And I like to thank David Wright for being here, and I like to thank, you know, the people, you know, that also, you know, helps us, you know, in the community, like Teresa, as well as everyone else who do get involved in, you know, disagreements with our elected officials, as well as they should, you know. You know, so I think that there's a time to be polite, there's a time to speak up, even in the Bible says the time to this, that, and the other, you know, so we have to get on their nerves sometimes, you know. And as far as us, when he asked the gentleman here, you know, when you said, what do you think the answer is? Well, sometimes, since we're not going to be able to go into their computers and sit in their meetings and know exactly how the money is going and so on and so forth, yeah, we can give our little hypothesis on how we feel this should be done and have our own little think tank, but as long as we're on the outside looking in, we can't sit and talk to the mayor in his office and have, you know, privileged information, you know, access to us, you know. You can tell us something, but how do we really know? You know, so I just want to let you know that, you know, when it comes down to the solutions, yeah, we come together like this is a regional deal. And the young lady was saying that she liked to get out, you know, outside of Valparaiso. And I think about situations, you know, here at GPTC, you know, the Oakland County line, it goes by the South Shore, you know, it goes by the Metro Center, and then, you know, the number 12 goes past the South Shore on Clark Road. You know, but at the same time, what about those who can jump on the South Shore physically and go and take advantage of the Michigan City Transit or the Transpo in South Bend? But you still have to have those connecting factors, like the lady said. So I would like an answer. We keep complaining about it, but I would like an answer for the people to be. I would like to get a little bit more detail from you, a little bit more detail from my mayors. You know, we keep saying what we think. I would like a straightforward answer. Is there anyone in here can answer that question?
Does anyone want to take a crack at why this hasn't moved farther and faster than it has? I know I grew up here. I covered this issue for my whole life, and I'm fairly self-time. Anybody at the time, you want to take that briefly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these issues are obviously complicated and hard, and it comes down to funding. And this is what we keep saying over and over again, that is the challenge that we're trying to find solutions to, is a dedicated source of local funding to be able to expand transit service. We've been trying to do that. Our plan and adopted documents are very clear on NIRPC's position of wanting an expanded regional transit system. We're not in the way of making that happen. We're trying to find solutions to be able to create that. We wish there was transit service available to our offices. We wish there were transit services available across the entire region. We have not been able to sustain local funding with a dedicated source to be able to make that happen. And until we can identify that stable revenue, we just can't pull transit out of the air, no matter. I understand the angst about, the passion about wanting to expand transit. We want that as well. But until we get that dedicated source, we can't.
But who's getting in your way? When you say funding, you can't open up the box up. Who have you reached out to, Todd? And who said we can't help you?
Right. The best chance we had the RVA, and I understand there's opinions about how that was run. That was before my time, so I can't speak specifically to that issue except for the funding source. They had a funding source that got them so far, and then they did not have that funding source to continue. So until we can actually identify what's going to sustain that, whatever that source is, it's going to be a challenge. All right.
I choose to disagree. I don't think it's entirely the funding, but the allocation of the funding, what you spend the money on, and who you give the money to. When you spend excess money on things that should have been going directly for the regional service, it is pretty hard to have a regional service. You understand what I'm saying? It's how you allocate the money, what pocket it goes in, that's going to determine the destiny of this area. But if you put it in the wrong pocket, like the RVA did, then you're going to get a block system. And that's what you have now. You've been funding the wrong program. Yes. You keep funding AAA with those excess amount of money every month. Every month. I saw we pay them $23,000, $24,000 every month. This is out of the question. You need to be focusing on the regional system. How are we going to develop a regional bus system? And then you talk about getting things like dial-a-ride. I have nothing against dial-a-ride, okay? In conjunction with the bus system, with a regional system. So if you have a person who says, okay, I don't want to walk down, or I can't walk down to the bus station, or to the bus, then they get on a paratransit. And you should have that paratransit linked with the bus system. So that it make it really accessible to everyone. Everyone, not just one person who is happy and satisfied with the service of AAA, but everyone. Never speak for one as yourself. That's selfish. Everybody, I want everyone to have public transit.
Let's give a chance to address it. The notion that this is going into a lot of different services, and Lake and Porter County is not going into one service right now.
I agree. I want transit service for everyone as well. Those local funding sources are created and are identified to be able to provide service in whatever form is able to happen in the part of the region where it happens. It's not, again, I have to keep repeating this, it's not as if there is a pool of money that is just decided where that goes. Those origins of those funds are locally determined. When those funds are able to be identified on the local level, they can be applied to access federal funds.
But if we had a regional service, that money would be identified for the regional service.
I don't disagree with you
When you
at all.
go downstate and you talk to our representatives and they laugh at us because we don't have a regional bus system, they would send more money up here if we had a regional bus system. If the money was coming from
When we established, we'd be ready to go then.
Yes.
If we can figure out, and this is why I think this is helpful, if we can figure out a way to connect the pieces of what's existing right now to be able to connect these dots to create that regional system.
The first thing you do is talk to the representative and say to them, we now want to, the people of Indiana, the people of the regional here of Indiana, of Northwest Indiana, want a regional bus system.
And it's long past.
I guarantee you those representatives would start focusing on that idea. But if you keep piecemealing the way you do, you're always going to have them saying, okay, send a little bit here, and we'll send a little bit there, we'll send a little bit there, and they'll never connect.
Shut them up for a while.
Do we have that consensus here? Do you think everybody agrees on that?
Raise of hands who wants a regional bus
Yeah,
service.
I'm guessing everybody in this room.
I'm
Yes, and everybody.
Thank you.
Have we seen this consensus in Northwest Indiana, the way we've seen a growing consensus about extending the South Florida, for instance?
Let's do a survey and find out.
Yeah.
That's what we need to
You
do.
go to South Bend, you go to Mission Walker, go here, go
And they-
there, blah, blah, and so on
As
and
far
so
as
forth. We need that.
extending the train service, they missed on that too. They should have developed a regional bus system to connect with the train. Trains and buses go together. What's going to happen when those people get off the train, other than going to Chicago that has a bus system? What's going to happen to those people if they get off in Gary, or if they get off in Hobart, or they get off in Hammond?
If they can get off, all the buses, all the train
Where are the
stations are
buses to
accessible.
pick them up, to take them to the businesses and the places they want to go?
And that's the sad thing, like you said, they're not accessible, so we're crying able by
I've
it.
never
But
seen
even if she can get on, she still
like
got
a man
issues.
who understands this and would like for this to happen, and we can make it happen.
I would, and thank you, because I would like to make that happen. I
Okay.
totally agree, these things are related. We have a big push for a rail extension, as you
Okay,
said,
so-
part of that picture has to be.
So how we do that is with public voices, grassroots. And the way you do that, NIRPC, is you must keep us informed. You must let us know. There's public radio. I'll get the stations that you should connect with for the poor, that the poor people listen to, that ride your buses. Okay? And you, a 5-minute spot on there will contact more people than you can ever think of, right there in Gary and Hobart and all the other places in Crown Point. You need to talk with the people. You need to go on a radio show and talk to the people. We need to love you because you got the money.
All right.
But most people
Speak
don't.
there, we can help you access the money, we don't have the money.
Okay, now the way it works is the establishment in Indiana, in Indianapolis, or wherever the money is, can contact you and give you the right to distribute whatever money they have. So that's what I'm
Just a
saying.
heads up, you know, somebody needs to be a talking head on the radio, so we can talk to Ty, he comes on, blah, blah, blah. And I hate to hear somebody tell me secondhand, this is what's going on, that sucks. You know, like, why, oh, come on, you know, let us know. You know, you be a personality or whoever's designated, whoever the person that loves to be on the radio. So that way we'll know to tune in to Ty or whoever, so we can know what's going on with her.
You should not be the
We're
bad
getting
guy.
down into the last word territory, so I just want to make one more call to anybody here who hasn't really had a chance to speak. We even had Coach.
I was just wondering, Steve, you know, the money through NIRPC, through these development, they get monies for the communities, Whiting, East Chicago, Gary, different developments, $22 million here, $30 million there. How come NIRPC doesn't ask everybody to give a little bit percentage to help develop this mobile service, this transit service?
Percentage from.
If you're getting around $22 million to develop the lakefront, Marquette, different projects, what good is it if we're building, every community is building itself up if no one can get there to look the beauty where the money's being invested?
The systems need to be, I actually agree, the investments that we're making across this region have to be integrated with this bigger picture, right? It's all connected. When NIRPC did its 2040 comprehensive regional plan, it was trying to start that connection happening. It's still got a ways to go before those things are fully integrated, but I think you're right.
I haven't seen too many other political officials here that they should be. Other than the transit service right here locally have stood up and they took that initiative. When they did the fair day, it showed they could work. You know, you look how many officials from the region really are here. I commend Lisa Salinas-Matanovich here. She's on the board of trustees for North Township. She's interested in it here. That's what they need. We need more of them, or these people let their officials know, their city officials, that we need this transit.
Just be careful right here because he knows it's going to be
You
know.
Listen, just real quickly, and I'm not going to belabor this, but, you know, I think everybody wants to look at NIRPC as being the problem solver for this. It's not NIRPC that's going to solve this problem. It has to be the communities and the representatives of those communities that are going to embrace that there needs to be a regional transportation system. Not all communities are going to buy into that. Okay? certainly in Hobart, we could use it. Again, I mentioned Mr. Wright and Gary Public Transportation. They run an extension out on our Route 30 corridor that gets to our commercial district. Without that, there would be a lot of people that couldn't access that. But again, I think that everybody wants to look at NIRPC as being the one who can make this thing just automatically happen. NIRPC is not going to be the solution. The communities are going to be the solution, coming to NIRPC with a unified voice saying, we're really willing to put up the funds or find local funding, just like Ty said. There has to be local funding. And if people are not willing to commit those funds, George made a good comment earlier about the rail, about the South Shore. Some communities, Congressman Wisniewski didn't get all the communities to buy into that. And what a wonderful idea of trying to connect us to Chicago for future generations. But not every community bought into that. Just like with regional transportation, you're not going to get a 100% buy-in until everybody from those communities speak up to their elected officials and say, this is a priority for economic development, for jobs, and for future generations. You can't look to NIRPC to be the problem solver only on this problem.
Isn't NIRPC's board and commissioners all elected officials?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. We can say what we want, but that's who's on that board. And that's why people look for NIRPC to lead the way.
That's right. But those communities are represented by one person.
The mayor.
NIRPC. Not a lot of them aren't mayors, but they're elected officials.
Correct.
But I think what he's saying is the reason Valparaiso has bus service is because of a decision that started at the local level in Valparaiso. The reason why Gary and Chicago have is because they made decisions at the local level, segueing into the head of the bus service in Chicago.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Frank Rosado from Chicago Transit. Earlier this month, as Teresa talked about earlier, a group of us meet every month to discuss transit issues. That's the meeting we had earlier this year. I came up with an idea as a way for people to get their elected officials to understand how important public transportation is to them. And it was very simple, create a petition online. Okay, so that petition is still up and running. So if anybody would like to sign up on this petition, it's simply called We Support Public Transportation, Northwest Indiana. You can go on the GPTC or the ECT website and get the link. Also, Teresa, do you have it attached to Everybody Counts? So if you go to any one of our websites, look for the link, and you'll be able to sign the petition, pass it on to as many friends as you can. We've had it up for about a week and a half, or probably about 100 people who have signed up. And the number of hits that we've gotten is somewhere near 700 or 800. I'm not a web person, so I can't tell you if that's good, bad, or what. But I do know that there have been almost 100 people that have emailed me back to tell me that they have signed the petition. So those of you that are in the audience, again, the Everybody Counts website, GPTC, or eChicago website, look for the link, go on, and pass it on. Thank you.
All right. Unfortunately, you were the last word on this. This is the end of this particular session. Of course, we're going to have a second session coming up at 5 o'clock here. We'll give another whole opportunity all the way until 7:30 to have your comments heard. In the meantime, I think somebody mentioned public radio. Get the word out of public radio. Well, yes! Speaking of the devil, I'm with public radio, and I'm actually going to start recording my show for tomorrow, starting at 4 o'clock. We're going to have folks on Everybody Counts from NIRPC.